welcome to the February edition of HR Hot Topics. I'm your host, Jodi Schafer, and as always, my aim is to make this the most informative 5-ish minutes of your month. I'm here solo today because unfortunately my partner in crime, Will Carlson, is recovering from COVID. So I'm shooting this on my phone, trying to make it look as professional as Will always makes me look, trying to mimic the backdrop here in my living room. And we'll just see how it goes, folks. But if the audio sounds a little echoey or the lighting's not quite on point, it's because this is just me and my iPhone stacked on some cake platters today. So it being February and the month of romance, I know this is coming to you on Valentine's Day. So like a quick reminder, folks, if you haven't gotten your loved one a little something for Valentine's Day, do so before you get home today. But it being Valentine's Day, I thought a great topic would be romance in the workplace, and also friendship in the workplace too, and the importance of all of that. So we're going to talk about that today. And then I also wanted to give you an update on some of the survey results that are coming in from the request that SHRM had sent out in January, asking for feedback on topics that you might like to see us do some deep dive videos on. So I'll give you a quick update as to where that stands. And then a reminder on a recent Court of Appeals ruling that affects paid sick time and minimum wage, just in case you didn't see my video reminder at the end of January on that one. So let's jump right in here. So romance in the workplace is not new. We spend many hours of our lives at work, and oftentimes we're working with people that might have similar interests to us if we're working in a similar industry, and romance happens. So a recent SHRM survey, SHRM stands for Society for Human Resource Management. So a recent SHRM survey said that 26% of those of you perhaps listening, those in the workplace, have experienced a workplace romance or are currently in a workplace romance. So this happens, it happens quite often. I think any sort of policy that tries to prohibit or outright ban this is a farce. It's never going to work, and all that does is promote secrecy, which is the absolute opposite of what we're really looking for in a leadership role. We don't want to tie people's hands in terms of who they can see socially, and if it evolves into romance, who are we to stand in the way of love? But we do have some obligations if we sit in a leadership role to minimize negative impacts of workplace romance around others. And the first one that I would say is we need to make sure that we have really clear boundaries and that we push transparency. And the reason for that is because, one, we want to make sure that we don't have two individuals that are involved romantically together that have a leader-subordinate relationship going on. That is just a recipe for disaster. So I'm not saying that if a relationship's happening in the workplace, you have to fire one of the folks. That's not what I'm saying, but I am saying that if you learn about a relationship in the workplace and the reporting dynamics are such that those two individuals have that subordinate leader dynamic, I think you're going to need to look at temporarily or perhaps long-term change to that reporting relationship so that the subordinate does not report directly to the individual that they are romantically involved with, because that goes nowhere fast. And certainly, even if those two individuals could behave above board all the time and remove any appearance of favoritism, that doesn't mean that those working alongside the individuals will really believe that that subordinate's being treated in the same way that they are. And we don't even want the appearance of preferential treatment or special favors. And it's a harassment nightmare. So we want to make sure those reporting relationships are really clearly defined. And if we find out that two individuals are dating and one reports to the other, that we make a change there and have that individual report to someone else instead. The other place where that really becomes a problem, workplace romance, is when the relationship ends. And I'm going to tell you, as somebody that has gotten called in specifically to do a harassment investigation, and it really all stemmed from a complaint of what was a consensual relationship that had gone off the rails, and now one coworker was feeling like the other coworker was mistreating them, specifically because the relationship had ended poorly. One was in favor of the relationship ending, the other was not. And so that didn't end well for either. It turned into this whole workplace, toxic, hostile workplace claim. The employer had to spend a lot of money to have, us come in and really do that deep dive investigation and put forth some recommendations. So, that's the risk, right? And I think being able to have a conversation on the front end, again, this goes back to the idea of transparency in the workplace, to have a conversation with both individuals, making sure that, yes, this is in fact a consensual relationship. No, there is not a reporting dynamic that we have to alter. And then clear expectations about how they will behave in the workplace while they are together, what is appropriate, what is inappropriate. But also, I think some conversations around how they will behave if this relationship does eventually end. And the fact that as employers, you still have responsibilities for having safe workplaces for all of your staff. And so we want to try to minimize any disruption to that if at all possible. And sometimes just an advanced proactive conversation can help with that. So that's on the romance side of the thing, but I also said friendships. And I think friendships are sort of underrated, in terms of focus sometimes from an HR perspective, because the risk is not high if somebody's got a friend at work. In fact, it's exactly the opposite. Again, a recent SHRM survey said that 85% of workers who have a close friend at work say that it's had a positive impact on their career. 80% of folks that have a close friend at work feel a stronger sense of belonging to the organization, and 86% of folks experience more job satisfaction. So certainly having a friend at work is a very good thing. We've known that for a long time. It's actually one of the things that you'll often see asked and measured on engagement surveys. It has to do with workplace culture. Feeling like you've got somebody who is walking in your shoes, sees the same things you're seeing, can root each other on, when they have wins in the workplace, but also can be there to be the listening ear when someone is struggling. And hopefully that relationship and that tie binds those two individuals, not just to each other, but to the organization as a whole, and makes it a better place to work and harder for the employee to want to leave, right? So retention is definitely impacted by this as well. Speaking of employee engagement and employee culture, I think that leads me to some of the survey results. So let me share those with you. Again, in January, we sent out a survey to all of you who are subscribers to these HR Hot Topics videos. And we said, hey, we're going to do 4 to 6 deep dive videos this year for free, but on topics that are really of interest to you. So tell us what you think. Which topics would you like us to dive deeper into? And I gave a whole list. It was like 10 or 15 different topics. And preliminary results from that survey rank workplace culture as the number 1 topic you would like to hear more about, followed by employee engagement, team building, and managing different generations in the workplace. So those are the top 4. The survey is not closed. So if you would like to register your thoughts, your opinions, we would love to hear those. We're going to keep the survey open through the end of February. And then we will make our programming and content decisions based on what you have to share with us. I also asked about how long would you like these videos to be? And as of now, the dominant answer is 45 minutes or less. That 30 to 45 minutes seems to be the sweet spot. So that's what we'll aim for if that continues to be the dominant answer. And finally, I asked about training in general, how you like to receive training, and I gave options of online, on demand only, in person only, or maybe some hybrid between online consumption of content and then maybe a real-time facilitated call from one of our trainers to help apply the content to your workplace. And not surprisingly, most respondents say, I like all of those options. So we will continue to include all of those options as we put forth our training calendar going forward, but certainly we are going to have a focus on some more online, on-demand options for all of you, building out that HR Hazmat training platform. So stay on the lookout for that. And finally, I will just close with a reminder that at the tail end of January, a 3-judge Court of Appeals overturned a lower court decision that was requiring employers to both get ready for an increase to minimum wage and a significant change to paid sick leave. Court of Appeals said, hold up, not so fast. We don't agree with that. We think the legislature acted within their constitutional authority when they made those significant amendments to both of those pieces of legislation back in 2018. So as of now, no changes are required for employers. We can continue to operate as we were, but this will most likely be appealed up to Michigan Supreme Court. So we'll wait and see, but for now, nothing significant needs to change. If you have any questions on anything I've shared with you today, feel free to reach out to me, Jodi Schafer at workwithhrm.com. I will include in the links some additional articles around increasing workplace culture and engagement, specifically in terms of friendship, how to create more opportunities for friendship and bonds at work. And I'll also include some sample policy language around romance in the workplace, and as an employer, how to protect yourselves and your staff should that romance go awry. So look forward to being with you next month. Until then, have a great week.